Welcome to the Theater Enthusiast ASMR introduction to the podcast. Alright guys, I'm just joking. Welcome to the Theater Enthusiast and Other Things podcast. Did not sing or rap this introduction, but that's fine. So today's guest is one of my best friends, and we were literally just talking about how long we've been best friends. And Elizabeth, you care to tell them what we talked about?
We have been best friends since the 6th Harry Potter movie came out.
She invited me in Schubert Alley, and I said yes, and I immediately, jumped her.
Yes, she
literally jumped onto Elizabeth.
In, an affectionate way.
Of course, nothing but affection. But anyway, without further introduction, here's Elizabeth Harvey!
Hi!
Yay! Oh, wait, hold on. There it is.
Oh, please, everyone, have a seat.
Oh!
Oh my goodness!
Oh my hot goodness. Hot mic. That's
Sorry, everyone.
It's a very hot mic. That. So, Elizabeth, tell the folks at home a little bit about yourself, aside the fact that you're one of my besties.
Oh, okay, well.
And she knows me so well, guys. For Christmas, she got me a bunch of office stickers. Because she knows I love The Office, and I say that's what she says. That's what she said.
All the time. She texted it to me on my way here.
Yeah.
So I am originally from South Carolina. I've lived in New York for almost 11 and a half years, which is weird. I work front of house for a Broadway show,
which we'll get into.
Yeah. I was a theater teacher, but I'm making a transition currently, figuring out my life, which we'll get into. And I have a dog who I'm obsessed with.
Guys, tell the folks at home the Instagram handle.
Oh, Sunny the sad dog. Please follow my dog.
So cute. She posted a photo today of Sunny in a Christmas outfit, and it's so freaking adorable.
It's really cute.
I will say Elizabeth got a dog, and for a good, 24 hours, I almost got one.
Yeah.
But I also don't want one.
You like the idea of one, but the actual...
But then it's then I had to take care of, something else, and it's kind of nice because I'm only responsible for me right now.
Fair.
Which is nice. So, Elizabeth.
Yes.
Let's start the interrogation.
Okay.
What is it that you love about theater?
I think what I love about theater sounds cliche maybe, but is the community, in terms of practicing theater. Mm-hmm. I love the community aspect. Even working front of house, we have our own little community of people that you can rely on. And when you're in a show, whether it's Broadway or community theater, I feel like you just form a really special bond with those people. Mm-hmm. And in terms of watching theater, there's nothing else like it. Even if you watch the same show every day, which I kind of do, it's a little bit different every time. They never do the exact same show every single night. Something changes.
It's also the audience is different too.
Yeah,
and sometimes
that's true.
How, I guess, an actor or somebody in the production reacts is, kind of based on the audience.
Right.
When I saw Tootsie, I'm having microphone problems, guys, and apparently voice problems too. Hello. For me personally, I felt like the audience kind of wasn't into it. Mm-hmm. I just wished the audience was a little bit more wow. I will say I forgot to mention that, as always, the hot priest candle is lit.
It is.
And I am drinking out of my hot priest mug that says Neil on the back. And Elizabeth, tell the folks at home what you're doing, Roger. Right reference. What mug you were drinking out of?
I'm drinking out of the waitress mug.
Here, cheers.
Cheers.
Opening up about your theater love.
Yeah.
We can also talk about Elizabeth. I can't speak English today. Guys, I work today, and I normally don't work on these days. It's okay. But English is a language.
We'll get there.
We can talk about your love for Sarah Bareilles at some point.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Hence the waitress mug.
Yeah. I try and do a mug, a different mug for each person who comes to my apartment for this. Granted that you're only the fourth one. And I will say I only have a limited amount of mugs.
Right.
For things.
Right.
But, I'll figure it as it progresses.
Right.
I do have a Fiddler on the Roof mug where my dream is to get somebody who is in Fiddler and drink out of that mug.
Yeah.
Who that person will be, I don't know.
That's a great plan, though.
Thank you. I'm plotting. Okay, anyway.
She will succeed, too, because she's a Slytherin.
It's true, guys. I'm a Slytherin. Okay, this is one of my favorite stories about Elizabeth. So Elizabeth and I, like I said, been friends for many, many years. Besties, whatever. We've traveled together. All of those fun things. And she's about to cough. You're welcome. So I took Pottermore and I found out I was Slytherin, and I said to Elizabeth, I'm really upset. I found out I'm Slytherin. To which she goes, yeah.
I was like, obviously.
But I take pride in it. Lin-Manuel Miranda is Slytherin. Merlin is Slytherin.
Yeah.
So I don't feel bad.
It's
Scorpius Malfoy is Slytherin.
Right? It just means that you're cunning and clever. You can still be a good person and be in Slytherin.
Exactly. I mean, Scorpius is my boyfriend. I love him.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was like Anthony Boyle playing Scorpius that I love.
That's fair.
I think
maybe
so.
He's also Slytherin.
You know what? He did ditch us at the stage door, so maybe. That's a story for no. I'm sure he's very lovely, but he had people there and he just like skipped us because we were talking to other cast members. I don't really stage door anymore, but I needed to stage door and meet Jamie Parker, and of course he didn't come out of the stage door, but that's just my luck in life anyway.
One day.
So where did your love of theater start?
Ooh.
I know, I asked the heart. I'm like the Barbara Walters. No, I'm not.
Well, okay, so when I was like 12, I decided I wanted to be an actor after watching the movie Titanic.
Oh my God.
True story.
Which ironically is one of your favorite musicals.
Yes, it is. And yeah, and so I was very interested in acting and performing after that, and did a little theater in high school, and then I was aware of Broadway, but it wasn't really something I kept up with. And then one year for Christmas, my uncle gave me this coffee table book of like all about Broadway, and it kind of like opened my eyes to theater in New York and to Broadway, and so it just kind of evolved from there, and then I majored in theater in college.
Do you know what your first Broadway show was?
Phantom of the Opera.
So, Elizabeth and I saw Phantom.
Yes.
Because Elizabeth, unfortunately, is the person who has to come with me to these things to indulge me.
Well, I wanted to see it, that
Yes.
production, too.
So, Norm Lewis was playing Phantom, and he's one of 3 people I want to have to sing me to bed at night, and his voice is just pure liquid gold.
Yep.
And let me tell you, so good.
It was really good. And Sierra Boggess was playing Christine.
I know, but Norm Lewis, who cares? I don't care about anybody else.
We like you too, Sarah. It's fine.
No, Sierra is fantastic and amazing and great, Christine Day, but I was there for Norm.
That's fair.
And it's just also kind of funny that they were playing Phantom and Christine, and they played father and daughter in Little Mermaid.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Under the sea.
I saw them in The Little Mermaid, too.
I didn't even see it.
That was my second Broadway show. Both times I was tourists. So
it's okay.
A tourist.
I deal with tourists all the time. Literally, it's my job is dealing with tourists.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, so where'd you go to college?
I went to Clemson University, which is in South Carolina.
You were in the theater department?
I was. So
did you have to audition for it?
Yes. So Clemson, which is mostly known for football, we're the national champions. Going for it again. Go Tigers.
Sports.
Sports. Anyway, so yes, so I went in as an English major, and then I auditioned for the theater program and transferred into that program or department or whatever.
Do you know, what was your audition process like? How did you get into that? What did you audition with? What did you have to audition? And all that stuff.
Yeah, so you just they did like an interview and a monologue.
Do you remember what your monologue was?
I'm trying to remember the name of the show it was from. I remember the author. It was Lanford Wilson, and I think it was Lanford Wilson.
Do you remember any of the monologue?
No.
I should have people do monologues on here. Like, I remember 2 monologues I did in college.
But it was a play that he wrote, I believe. I'm Googling it right now to make sure. And the play was literally just one giant monologue. It was like maybe 10 pages, and I just did like an excerpt.
What's interesting? So, if anybody heard this podcast, I directed a show when I was in college. And I think it's very tricky when you're auditioning for things, like what you audition with, because Proof is one of my favorite plays. My dream role is Catherine in Proof, and Lord knows I'm probably not going to play her because I'm a little old in the tooth by now for that character. Probably get cast as Claire, the sister. But I had somebody come in and audition for How I Learned to Drive, and she says, I'm going to be doing a monologue from Proof. And I said, oh, that's my favorite play. And there's no monologues in Proof. So I think it's very tricky when it comes to that. That's something you should be like careful of, especially if you're auditioning.
Right.
Because if you don't know what the people know in the audition room.
Right.
So the fact that she was auditioning for Proof and I was like, oh, that's my favorite play, kind of like didn't work in her favor. You know what I mean?
Right.
Not saying that she was bad. I mean, she didn't get cast in my show, but like not saying that this person was bad, but it's just you need to be careful. And also, my senior year, we were doing like a showcase thing, and people were trying to figure out what shows to do. And when I was trying to figure out what I wanted to direct in college, my senior year, I read like 7 to 10 plays, and one of them was a play called Brilliant Traces, and it's a drama.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what it was about. It was either Brilliant Traces or something Pavilion. And these two people in the acting class, like the senior showcase class, whatever, was doing a scene from one of the plays that I read. And they were doing it as a comedy. And I raised my hand and I said, I read this play. It's not a comedy. Right. It's a drama.
Right.
And the teacher professor who was a casting agent said, she's right. You need to be careful with what you're auditioning with.
Yeah.
Like, who am I to say anything nowadays? Because, I don't really audition, so I don't really know what the audition process is like now. But I just think that's something that you have to be cautious of.
Right.
Because you never know what people know. And, if you want to change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But, if you have, like, a well-known show and it's a drama, don't make it into a fucking comedy. Like,
right.
If there's a play where there's no monologue, like, you shouldn't really butcher it and, like, make it into a monologue.
Yeah.
Especially if it's, like, a Tony-winning play.
Right, exactly.
I don't know, maybe it was a Pulitzer play. I don't remember.
Yeah. I've heard of people, like, because sometimes, like, you'll have a monologue and then one line of dialogue and then like a continuation, and I think
that's fine.
That's okay. But if you're like piecing together like line after line after line, that's tricky.
Also, like if a monologue, like, I did junior year of college, I took a Shakespeare class first and second semester, and first semester I did Queen Margaret from like some history show, and it was a really long monologue, so the professor cut it. So like something, and a monologue I did for senior year was from Reasons to Be Pretty, and that was a long monologue too, and we cut it. So stuff like that, cutting is fine. But I think especially if you're an audition and you only can do a monologue for a minute, you're not going to do like a full 5-minute monologue. You have to cut it down.
Right.
I think in that instance it's fine.
Yeah.
Anyway, sorry to go on a tangent and ramble, but it's life lessons.
It's all good. It's all good.
So you auditioned and you got into the Did you audition for acting? Did you audition just to get into the theater program? Yeah. Like what did you want to study?
So the theater program at Clemson has grown since I was there, but at the time,
like every theater program.
I know, right? At the time it was pretty small, not super well known. Not that it is super well known now, but anyway, point being, what it was you majored in performing arts, and then you focused on either theater or music. And then within those focuses, you could kind of even focus even more because they had a range of classes. So there were several.
Continue.
Okay. So you could sort of really hone in on what you wanted based on the classes you took. So somebody who wanted to do tech could take all the lighting and set design classes. I wanted to act, so I took the acting classes.
That's interesting because in my program, when I went to PACE, I went in as a BA because I talked on the podcast last week about it, that I auditioned for musical theater, didn't get into the program. The person who auditioned me said you should do BA theater because you want to do acting and directing. You want to do a bunch of stuff. So for PACE, they wanted you to take every single aspect of theater. Yeah. And that's kind of what I want to do with this podcast too, is like get different people on who work in different parts of it. So you had to take, tech. You had to take backstage. You had to work a backstage shift at a show. Like one of the semesters for one of the main stage productions. You had to do costumes, different things like that. So you had to learn about like all aspects of theater, as well as taking like the acting classes or musical theater classes. So you kind of know what's going on and learning the lingo. And that's when when I went in, I was like, holy shit, I don't know anything. Because my high school drama teacher did not, she also didn't like me. The story. I think I even told it on the podcast on the first episode. Yeah. I wasn't prepared at all going in. Yeah. So again, that's why I want to do this podcast, kids.
Yeah. Yeah. But yeah, Clemson was sort of similar because you could they had basically elective slots where you could fill in with whatever classes you wanted, but everybody had to take at least one acting class. Everybody had to take at least one tech class, whether it was
what made you decide on Clemson?
So So I applied to 3 colleges. They were all in South Carolina, where I'm from.
Carolina?
Carolina. Anyway.
If it's there.
So and originally I wanted to go to University of South Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
I went there, I took a tour, I loved it. And actually with their program at the time, you didn't even have to audition. You could just major in theater. I'm imagining getting into the productions was probably pretty difficult because they also have a graduate program. But you could just like be a theater major, and I did sort of like that, not because I wasn't willing to audition, but just I liked that you could do the thing you wanted to do. And then, anyway, I got into all 3 colleges, and Clemson sent me my acceptance last. And I had already told USC I was going. And then I got my Clemson acceptance letter, and I can't even explain it, but just like literally something switched. And I was like, I have to go to Clemson. Like, no reason, just like a gut instinct.
Are you happy with your decision?
I am. My college experience was not without some drama.
That's everybody's. Maybe that's why we're friends.
Like my acting professor slept with a student. But
listen, there between you and I and the podcast,
and all of you,
and the 5 people who will probably listen to this, I feel like there was rumors going around at my college about that stuff too.
Yeah.
And there was like a certain relationship that a lot of people knew about, but they didn't really know if it was true or not. Mm-hmm. And I remember talking to somebody about it because this person would always get favoritism with this one certain person. And I was like, it doesn't really like affect me. Like, It doesn't bother me personally. And they're like, it should.
Right.
Because this person keeps getting cast and all this. And but I was also just like, it's not my business.
Right.
Like, I don't care. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love a scandal story,
Yeah, totally.
But, like, whatever. Yeah. Like, you're shipping a student, like, oh my God, that's hilarious, but, like, it's not my business. You know what I mean? Right. But that sounds horrible.
No,
but whatever.
But, like, I get it. But, no, so there were definitely things that I wish could have been a little bit different about my theater program at the time, but overall, I'm happy with it. I made a lot of good friends. I learned a lot. And the nice thing was, because Clemson was actually pretty close to my hometown. And so when if I didn't get cast in a school production, I was able to go and be in community production. So I was still able to do shows, even though...
What shows did you do?
I was in The Crucible.
Who did you play?
I played...
Like, I don't even remember anything.
I don't even remember her name. It was, like, one of Abigail's, like, friends. Like, one of her little mean girls, yeah.
Oh my gosh, she's like the Regina George of, like, Salem, Pennsylvania.
I was in this show called Dirty Work at the Crossroads. It's, like, not a very good melodrama, but it was fun to do. Mm-hmm. I made some friends there. I'm trying to remember if I did any... right after I graduated, that summer after college... I was in the children's theater production of Alice in Wonderland, and I played Tall Alice.
Ooh, and that's actually, like, I would love... Elizabeth does not know this about me, but I would love to play Alice one day.
Yeah.
And Juliet. Again, never gonna happen, but a girl can dream.
Yeah. So I was Tall Alice, so, like, when she drinks the elixir and then, like, grows...
Amazing. Also, Elizabeth is, like, super tall, guys.
I'm really
She's
tall.
6 foot.
So
And I'm 5'5". We're kind of like Arnold Schwarzenegger and Danny DeVito and twins.
I will have to break out a photo of me dressed as Alice for your...
Please send that. That can be your birthday gift to me.
But, so at one point in the show, I literally was wearing a house because, like, she grows so big that she, like, busts out of the house, so...
I'm just convelling over these office stickers that Elizabeth gave me. It's so great.
You're welcome.
Yeah. So, you graduated.
Yeah.
So, what was the next step after graduation?
So, I knew I wanted to move to New York. Mm-hmm. So, I worked that summer at home. And then I was just applying for, like... I didn't really have a strategy about moving to New York. Like, I'm going to get a job waiting tables and then audition. Like, I just was like, I just need to get a job and move, and then I'll figure it out. Mm-hmm. And so I was applying for a lot of different jobs, and a lot of places won't hire you or even interview you if you don't, like, already live there. But I got an interview at BAM in Brooklyn, which would have been like a 9-to-5 like office job. And it was in like audience services or something. And I came up to interview for that. And I stayed with somebody I had met in college, and her roommates. And when I was staying with her, this was towards the end of the summer, one of her roommates was like, "Oh, I'm actually looking into moving to a different apartment." And so I took over her spot in that apartment. So I actually didn't even have a job when I moved here. I was just like, I feel like this fell into my lap, so I'm good to go.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, you didn't get it with BAM, did you?
I didn't. The interview went well. I think I was high on their list, but I ended up not getting hired. So I got a
I
job.
can't get comfortable in this chair. I'm sorry if you hear squeaks, but it's just like me trying to like get my fat ass in this chair.
She has a great ass, by the way.
It's not. It used to be so much better, guys. I'm claustrophobic, so for many years I did not take an elevator, so I would walk up the stairs, and my butt was so nice.
Yeah.
Now it's just there.
It exists. It serves its purpose.
It's kind of like.
Anyway, I got a job selling merchandise for Billy Elliot.
So let's talk about how you ended up with the merch, because our 5 listeners who listen through the whole podcast, I just want to shout out like the 40 people who listened to the last podcast. That was almost 2 hours. And I don't know if you listened to the whole thing, but if you do, Theater Enthusiast Podcast on Instagram, DM me, let me know, and I will give you a shout out on the next podcast, which will be in 2020. This is our last podcast of 2019, guys. Yay! Ending it with Harv. Harvalicious, Fergalicious. Make those boys go loco. Yeah, I do silly things. Anyway, so how did you end up getting the job doing merch? Because we've mentioned in previous podcasts, like if you want to pursue theater but still somehow work in the theater, like this is a really great way of doing it.
Sure.
So tell the kids at home.
Yeah. So I think I just saw a posting on Playbill, honestly.
Playbill.com is a really great resource for jobs. I think Broadway World, but I'm not getting sponsored by these guys, by the way.
Yeah, Broadway World now has a job board as well.
I forget and I never look. Yeah. But I usually look on like Playbill.
Yeah. Playbill is nice because they have acting and admin and
they have everything.
A lot of stuff, yeah.
They even have things that aren't necessarily in theater, but it's really helpful for people who want to pursue it as like a side job.
Yeah.
You know, they'll have like babysitting and they'll have, you know, what's the word? Not craft service, like catering jobs, you know, so they'll post things like that as well.
Yes. Because I applied for this job and because I knew I was moving to New York, I had an address. So even though I was still in South Carolina when I applied for the job, I put what would be my New York address on my resume or whatever. And so then when I got to New York, I found out I had an interview and then I got the job doing that. And I did that along with a plethora of babysitting. So it was just like good timing. Like I saw the listing, I applied, I had a New York address, and they liked me. They hired me.
So you did merch with Billy Elliot.
Yes.
That's not an accent in the show.
I did.
Billy, do the ballet.
I got hired before the show started on Broadway.
Oh, so like OG cast.
Yeah.
With Trent Kowalik.
Yes.
Fun fact about that. Trent and I grew up in the same city, same town, on Long Island. Was actually good friends with his sister. Like, I've known her since elementary school to high school. So I was actually, like, in that friend group with his sister. Yeah.
That's cool.
So it was just, like, for me, it was really exciting to finally, like, I saw Billy Elliot many times. I don't remember the number. It's not 10, but I feel like it's 10. That was Dirty Rotten Scoundrels. Anyway,
Fair
same
enough.
Theater, current, you know, Greg Jabbar was in both.
Yeah.
But for me, like, I think one of the last times I saw Billy Elliot was, like, with Trent Kowalik when he, like, hit his growth spurt.
Oh,
but I was happy at least I got to see him in the show.
Yeah.
Billy Elliot was such a good show.
Yeah, it was really good.
Yeah.
It was really good.
What was the year? What was nominated? There was something else nominated that year that a lot of people were upset that, like, that didn't win, but Billy Elliot won.
Oh,
I think it was the year of Next to Normal, and a lot of people were upset that
it was the year of Next to Normal.
I don't know. Me personally, like, I'm happy Billy Elliot won. Like, Next to Normal was great, but I was team Billy Elliot.
That's fair.
And listen, putting it out there, don't hate me. Everybody has their own theater opinions.
Yeah, everybody does.
Except for the movie Cats, which apparently every critic hates. I can't do it, guys. I can't give money to anything that involves Taylor Swift, even though I have like 2 or 3 of her songs on my iTunes. I just can't do it. And I love Robert Fairchild so much, and he's such a sweetheart. I actually like DM'd him once, and he wrote back to me, and it's never happened. And I just like, ugh, I can't do it. It's also cats. Like, my sister got the VHS, like, we rented it. So back in the day, there were things called video stores and VHSs. And my sister got the VHS of Cats, and I just remember not liking it then either. So I just, like, I can't do it.
Yeah, I'm not sure I'm going to get to it, but we'll see.
Yeah, I'd just rather see Frozen 2 and Little Women.
That's fair. Same.
Frozen. Samantha? Okay, so you worked merch at Billy Elliot. So was Billy the only show that you merched at?
It was. That merch company was, like, relatively new, so that was their first Broadway show.
Which merch was it?
Encore.
I don't know if they're around that much anymore. I think it's like Marquee and it's Max Merch.
Araka, Creative Goods.
I mean, Encore maybe once in a blue.
Yeah, I think that
Max Merch is the best though. Buy all things Max merchandise.
I think that they have
That's the company I work for, once in a blue.
I think that Encore might have some touring shows and occasionally gets like a Broadway gig. Like, I think they're still doing okay, but they're not, prime.
Yeah, so now you usher.
Yes.
So how did you transition from selling merch to Billy? To the ballet?
Yeah.
Or we can sing the song from Billy Madison. Yes, I will go back to school to achieve victory. I'm not going to sing more, guys, because I don't want to pay royalties because I have no money. So what made you transition from merching to ushering? Because you usher, I just want to paint the picture for you guys. Elizabeth ushers for Jujamson. And Jujamson is awesome. I have merched at Jujamson theaters and, mostly at the Kerr. And I love the house staff of the Kerr.
They're great, yeah.
And, like, the house manager of the Kerr is awesome.
She's lovely.
Susan is fantastic. So, and that's because there's different houses. So there's Niederlander, there's Schubert, and Billy Elliot was in a Schubert house, and Niederlander.
Yes.
Sorry, I already mentioned that. And brain fart, help me, Jujamson.
Yes.
So how did you get the usher job with Juju?
Yeah,
Jujamson?
So during like my first year in New York, I was constantly just trying to like piece together part-time jobs and looking for other things. And I was like, well, I know ushers like at Billy Elliot. I'm sure I can like find a way to become an usher. And I think I applied at the Schuberts too. But the timing with them has to really be perfect, or you just have to be related to somebody. Halfway joking. Anyway.
But not.
Anyway, so I was looking up the different like companies that own the Broadway theaters, and I found Jujamson, and I didn't see anything on their website about how to apply. So I literally like went to like the office, like not into the office, but just to like the front door, because there's a doorman and an elevator, so it's not like you can just walk in anyway. And I would just ask him, I was like, how do I apply to become an usher? And he was like, just bring your resume and cover letter back and I'll turn it in. And I was like, all right.
Did you get him dinner, this guy?
No, I wish I remember who it was. Anyway, so.
And you never saw him again?
I probably did, but I don't remember, like, at that moment.
It's all good.
I didn't make a mental note of his face. Anyway, so I wrote a cover letter and resume, and I brought it back, and I turned it in to maybe the same guy, maybe a different guy, I don't know. And I think the timing just happened to work out that they were hiring, because they called me, like, a month later, and, like, I know people who apply to be ushers and don't get called for a year.
Wow.
So it was just, like, luck, really. Anyway, so I got hired to be a substitute usher, because that's how you always start out, it's just like a sub. So when I wasn't doing merchandise or babysitting, I would pick up ushering shifts.
How long have you been with Jujamson ushering?
So long. I have... Guys, Allison just made it That's What She Said joke.
They don't need to hear that on the podcast, guys.
Anyway,
So long, I had to.
I have been with Jujamson for over 10 years, but I did take a year off when I was teaching full time.
Which we'll get into. So, what was the first show you ushered?
The first show I ushered was 33 Variations at the O'Neill with Jane Fonda.
Oh, yeah. Wasn't that, like, not well received?
I honestly have no idea. I enjoyed it. but I don't know it wasn't a show I was really aware of until I had to work it. So
Yeah, that was a long time ago.
Yeah.
So you've ushered. So Drew Jamson has 3 Broadway, 4, 5.
Yes.
Okay, let's see if I can name them all.
Okay.
August Wilson,
Mm-hmm.
Al Hirschfeld,
Mm-hmm.
Eugene O'Neill,
Mm-hmm.
St. James.
Mm-hmm.
There's one more.
Your favorite house.
The Cur.
Yeah.
Oh, hi, brain fart. All with like really like hot popular. I'm telling you, Jordan Rothman knows how to get a good show in there.
Yeah.
Oh, The Cur's gonna be quiet. Yeah, let's put Bruce Springsteen in there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked Bruce Springsteen only for a week of the run. But like I got paid to be closer to Bruce than most of his hardcore fans have ever been, so it wasn't a bad gig.
You know, my dad is a huge Springsteen fan, and people are like, "You're gonna see Springsteen?" I'm like, you know, for me, if it was like Billy Joel on Broadway, it would be a different story.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm always like the type like, yeah, it'd be cool to see it, but like, why waste my money? And like, let somebody who is willing to pay the money go see him. I mean, granted, I entered the lottery, never won, but then it was gonna be on Netflix. And then I went home and my dad's like, oh, it's on Netflix. And we started to watch it and he turned it off because it was boring. I don't know. It just wasn't for me.
It was a show. So that show was, I feel like, if you saw it in person and you were a diehard fan, it was probably life-changing.
Yeah.
I don't know. I didn't watch the special, so I don't know how well it translated.
Well, also his Tony performance, he sang the whole
thing.
Which, like, wasn't for me.
And I think Bruce is amazing, but I'm not a diehard fan. Mm-hmm. So for me, it was cool to see.
If it was Sarah Bareilles,
right?
She'd be like, "Not gonna write you a love song, Elizabeth. Not gonna ask for it."
But yeah, so for me, it was like really cool to see, but it wasn't like life altering.
So now Elizabeth has a master's degree in theater education.
I do.
So what made you decide to get your master's in theater education?
So, teaching was something I had thought about off and on, actually throughout high school. And then, but I wasn't sure what or how or where. It was just kind of like that might be cool. And I took some education-focused classes in high school, actually, not in college. And then, I did an internship with Tada Youth Theater for like maybe 6 months or less. And so I shadowed a couple of their teaching artists who were working at a public school in Brooklyn and helped them put on their production and do their work. And one of those teaching artists was getting her master's in educational theater to be a public school theater teacher. And I was like, oh, that's sort of cool. And so I just sort of made a mental note. At that point, I didn't want to go to grad school, but it was just like future reference. And then after, like a few years later, I had an office job where I really just wasn't happy. It was a great company. I just was not happy sitting at a desk, buzzing people in.
I mouthed it to her. I know what company it is, so we're not going to say what it is on the podcast.
Yes,
but
they are like it's really not a dig at them. It just wasn't the right job for me.
Yeah, I mean, you know, other people I've had on this podcast, you know, I've asked them like, what was because 2 of the people I've had on the podcast I went to college with, and I say to them, what was your experience like in college? This is not a dig on the school. It's not a dig on anybody. Everything we talk about is our own experiences that we've had, because everybody has their own experiences. Right. Just like how I mentioned earlier, everybody has their own taste in shows. So people need to calm down over the fact I didn't like In the Heights.
Right? It's going to be okay.
Yeah, it's going to be fine. And not everybody liked Once or Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, but those 2 shows have a very special place in my heart.
Right.
Just like Seth Meyers does. And Ron Swanson.
There you go.
Elizabeth is also a huge fan of Parks and Rec.
Love Parks
and Rec. So we're going to be playing a game called Did Ron Swanson Say This, or did I make up this line? So that's going to come later. I'm very excited about it. I worked hard on this.
Very excited.
I think it's pretty easy, but you know, we'll see. We'll see.
But yeah, so anyway, so I was working at this job that was totally fine, just wasn't for me. And I was like, I was sort of felt like I was done with auditioning. Like I was like, the acting thing is fun, but not.
Did you even audition? Did
I
you
did.
audition while we were friends?
Not while we were friends.
Okay.
No, but I did.
This is like a whole nother life I don't even know about,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Like, you auditioned for stuff?
I did. My first few years in New York.
Elizabeth is older than I am, too. Not by much,
Not
though,
by much.
guys. Like, she's not, like,
a year
ancient.
and a half.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
nothing bad at all.
Anyway, so I was sort of done with that, and I got this full-time job and was not happy. I was still ushering on the side and was like, well, I would like to have something that I enjoy.
So, let's
Yeah.
keep going.
Yeah.
So, because I love you, but you're taking 5 years.
Okay, well, listen, you asked the question. No,
That's true.
It's fine. Anyway, so basically I was like, okay, let me go ahead and apply to grad school.
I just realized how rude that was, and I apologize. I don't want this podcast to be 2 hours. Like the last
That's fine. No, so basically I was like, I'm not happy. I have to change things. I can't just quit this job willy-nilly.
That's like horribly rude of me. I can't get over how rude I was to you.
Well, I'll survive. It's fine.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank
I love
you.
you.
I love
your
you.
face. Caress your face from a distance. Anyway, so you started to apply to grad school.
Yeah.
So you were in grad school like a couple years after we've known each other.
Yes.
So and we've known each other for like 7-8 years now.
Yeah.
Friendship forever. Anyway, so you get into grad school.
Yes.
Where did you go?
City College.
And what did you study?
Educational theater.
And so you have your degree in educational theater.
Mm-hmm.
I went to see Elizabeth's final presentation. She even mapped out the bus routes for me.
I did.
Because she's like, you better be going. This is about. That's how it's to guilt me. I'm Jewish, but Jewish guilt works opposite on me. So I never make anybody feel guilty. I'm like weirdly manipulative.
Yeah.
But I can get away with it.
Yeah.
However, Jewish guilt, I can't guilt anybody. It's always opposite. Everybody makes me feel guilty.
Yes.
I can only guilt one person, and that's Mitch. Woo!
Ooh.
Stuff fell, guys.
It's crashing down.
Maybe that was God's way of being like, calm down, girl. Calm down. So, theater education.
Yeah.
So, you have your master's degree.
I do.
And then what next?
So then I got a job teaching. I taught for 3 years in various schools in the Bronx. And
can you just talk a little bit about that process of finding a theater job once you have your master's? Because with this master's degree that you have in educational theater, like what else could you do? I know that some people that you went to college with are teaching artists.
Yes, so you can pursue the teaching artist route, which you don't necessarily need a master's to do, but some people like to get their master's just to have that further education or experience. So you could be a teaching artist for like a theater organization. You could work in education at a theater company like Roundabout or Manhattan Theater Club. You could be a public school or private school teacher, depending on if you get certified or not. And I think it also opens up other doors and skills. Like I'm really interested in like theater accessibility and like making it more accessible for people with disabilities, which I think is something you can explore with that degree.
Do you think there's a lack of that in theater right now?
Like a lack of accessibility. I do. It's getting much better. Like it's improving so much, and more of those jobs are being created.
Do you think something like the Deaf West production of Spring Awakening was kind of like the first like thing to open the gates for that or open the door for that?
Yeah, I mean I don't know if it was like the first.
Not the first, but
yeah,
because like I mean, when they did the last revival of Glass Menagerie, the girl who played the daughter, I'm brain farting on the name right now. She was in like an actual wheelchair.
Right. Yes.
You know?
So I'm trying to think. I lost my train of thought. Anyway, yeah. So
sorry
I
that
think,
I distracted
no,
you
it's fine.
with my wisdom.
I think for me, like in like my personal history, like of seeing Broadway shows, Spring Awakening the revival was one of the things that like made me go, oh, okay. Like it was a big turning point for me in the way I think about theater. So I think like, they are making things more accessible, like with Ali Stoker in Oklahoma. She was also in that production of Spring Awakening. They're making the backstage areas accessible for the shows that she's on. They do have accessible seating in theaters. TDF is amazing, a theater development fund. They do autism-friendly performances of Broadway shows, and they do open captioning or sign language interpreted productions of Broadway shows. It's just a shame that, like, if you are deaf or hard of hearing, that you can only see certain Broadway shows once or twice a year, whereas most people can see them anytime. You know what I mean? So in that realm, it's lacking.
Do you think it's a lack of money as well?
It could be. I don't know the financials behind it. It could be money. Something that I'm curious about, because so sometimes they bring in the interpreters who like live interpret the show, and I imagine that is quite expensive. But then sometimes they also do captioning where they have all of the dialogue and the songs scrolling on like a digital screen, like near the stage. And so I've always been curious about, like, if you've taken this time and money to create these captions, why don't you just leave that screen up? Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like, why are we just doing this once or twice a year?
Well, to play devil's advocate on that one, do you think it would be distracting to other theater members who are not impaired?
I mean, I don't think so, because that screen, I mean...
You know what there should be? I just figured out what you're doing with your career.
Okay.
And I've told Elizabeth so many times what she should do with her life.
She has.
No, I told her you should just, like, pardon my French, kids, just, like, teach theater on the side, like, auditions for college and whatnot.
Right.
But she doesn't do that. It's fine. Nobody ever listens to me, guys, except for you, who's listening right now to this podcast. You know what would be great? I just had this idea. If there was, like, an actual, like, theater, like a theater space that just does accessible performances.
Yeah.
Like Deaf West.
Right.
But they have that in New York.
Right.
But it's, like, deaf, autism. It's, like, it's everything.
Right.
Maybe you should work on that.
Maybe I should.
Win the lottery.
But yes.
And work on that.
So I do think that there is a lack of accessibility, but I think it's getting better. Also, just because we're in the public sphere, I want to note because you said the word impaired, which is not a bad word, but if you are deaf or hard of hearing, I know they prefer deaf or hard of hearing as opposed to hearing impaired. Yeah. Just for the public consumption, FYI.
Just for the people who are listening.
Yeah.
So, with this theater, what am I saying?
With my degree.
Thank you.
Yes.
So you taught for 3 years.
I did.
And now what?
Why
did you decide you're like, I'm good?
So I taught for words. What are words?
Guys, we're having a rough day today.
Yeah. So basically, there were definitely some good things about teaching. Teaching is very hard, which is fine. I did not expect it to be easy.
But you tell the kids at home what you're doing, Roger. Sorry, another Rent reference. The age that so just the people at home can kind of get an idea of, like, the age that you taught.
Sure. So my first year teaching, I taught middle and high school. And then my last 2 years, I taught elementary school, which was pre-K through 5th grade.
Which did you find harder?
Because of my personal experience, I think it was actually harder to teach elementary. But I also kind of like the content for elementary more. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's hard to say. But I think teachers are amazing, and there were some great moments teaching, but for me, the payoff wasn't there, just in terms of, like, feeling like I really liked my job, or like, oh, it was totally worth it. Like, teaching is too hard for you to go in being, like, meh about it. Mm-hmm. And so I decided to transition and pursue other pathways with my degree.
Such as?
Such as anything we've just talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know that I want to do full-time teaching artist, but it might be something I pair along with something else. Yeah. Because I don't know if I want to be, like, that all over the place.
Now, I know I asked you this before.
Yeah.
But for the kids at home listening, hey, 5 of you, do you regret getting your master's degree?
I don't.
Like, all that hard work, all of that money.
Right.
And then you're like, I'm good.
No, because even though I pursued that master's degree for my certification, I feel like I got a lot out of it anyway. Like, I feel like because of that degree now, there are jobs I can apply for that I couldn't have before. I feel like it opened my eyes up to other opportunities and things I'm interested in. Mm-hmm. And not to be cliche, but I made some really great friends, and I had some really lovely artistic and fulfilling experiences.
Great.
Yeah.
Why do you think theater is important?
Ooh.
I know, I asked good questions. You're welcome. You're welcome, Moana. See, I'm just gonna like start referencing things. Elizabeth and I 2 months ago were in Disney together, and that was a fun experience.
That was. Why is
I drank around the countries, and she did not.
I accompanied.
She did. She was going to, and then we changed plans. She's like, I'm not gonna drink. I'm like, well, fine.
Why is theater important? So, gosh, there are so many reasons. I think that it's just such a unique medium, like a unique art form. I think it does provide a sense of community and belonging to a lot of people who may or may not have a hard time finding their place in the world otherwise, but definitely have met many people who were like, I didn't belong anywhere until I like auditioned for a community play, you know. I think it teaches important skills. Having been a theater teacher, you know, it teaches you how to collaborate, how to speak in public, how to think outside the box, how to work with people that you may not like at all.
Yep.
And it's also a great way to express yourself. And it's a great art form to challenge people through. You know, maybe you see a play that is political and it makes you think about things in a different way. Or like, for me, like I said, when I saw the Deaf West production of Spring Awakening, it made me think about disability in theater in a different way. Yeah, for all those reasons.
Yeah. Do you think people who like want to pursue getting a master's degree, like what advice would you have for them?
Ooh.
In theater education?
Yeah.
And, you know, because we already talked about what you can do with it.
Right.
So what would your advice be for them?
Sure. So I think that if you want to get your degree in educational theater and you think you want to be a public school teacher, I think you, and let's say you don't have a lot of experience with that, because I really didn't, to be honest. I think you should try maybe shadowing some public school teachers that you know or have connections to. Talk to people who work in schools. Just try to get a bit of experience, because what I realized with teaching is, like with many jobs, I guess, but I feel like especially teaching, you really don't know if you're going to like it until you do it.
Yeah.
And so the more exposure you can get beforehand, the better.
That's also with a lot of things too.
It is. But I feel like the theory of teaching and the practice of teaching are very different things. But that being said, like, if you want to get your master's in educational theater, you totally should. Like, there are so many other pathways that you can go with. And some people get their master's, get their certification, even knowing they don't want to be a public school teacher, but they like having that knowledge that that's there if they need it.
Yeah. I always like thought to myself, like, if I were to get my master's degree, I would want to get in acting, and then end up, like, being, like, a teacher and artist at a college and, like, teaching kids how to, you know, act and perform.
Right.
Mostly because I like telling people what to do.
That's fair.
You know, whatever.
Yes.
Anyway, so, getting back to you as an usher, I actually thought about this question.
Ooh.
You don't have to, like, I don't know if you're, like, allowed to name names, but you've ushered for many, many moons.
Yes.
What is the worst behavior... Like, what is the worst thing you've seen ever at a show?
Like, in terms of the audience?
Yes. And, you know, if you want to talk about backstage stuff, too, I'm totally fine with that. We're not naming names.
We're not naming names.
She'll tell me after the podcast. But just, like, because I think on our first podcast, we talked about theater etiquette, and you know this about me. I have a huge thing about theater etiquette.
Yeah.
I am such a stickler for it.
Yeah.
It drives me fucking nuts when people have their phone on or talking during a show.
Right.
Like, it just drives me fucking nuts. It's like, I didn't pay all this money, and you didn't pay all this money for you to be on your fucking phone when there are these people on stage working their asses off, like, to entertain you.
Right.
You know, you can put your phone away for, like, 2.5 hours or however long the show is.
Yeah.
So, what's that?
So there are things I've seen and then things I've heard about from my ushering colleagues that I haven't seen but I know are true. I won't name any theaters or productions, but there was a show I was working where it was in previews, and there was a couple in the front row who were videotaping it, and multiple people saw them videotaping it, and then they were confronted at intermission and denied it, and then they finally admitted to it and were let back in, and then a manager went to open the door to let them back in, and they went, and the woman goes, please take your time, or something like that, with like a little attitude after this whole debacle, and then they got kicked out. It was great.
Did the actors notice they were videoing, or was it just like the house staff and the audience?
I think the actors saw it, and then stage management let our manager know.
Yeah.
And then, because they were like, it was like being held down low, like under a jacket, but like when you went down close to them, you could see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw an American in Paris front row because I won the lottery, and during the I built a stairway to paradise scene, there was somebody in my row who like was full on videotaping. I saw it.
Yeah.
And that was like the second act, so you couldn't really like do anything about it.
Right. Yeah.
It stung. So, what's your feelings on theater etiquette as an usher?
Yeah. So I feel like you shouldn't have your phone out during the show. You shouldn't be texting. You shouldn't be taking pictures.
Also, silence your phone or turn them off, kids.
Yeah. Make sure your phone is on silent or off. We can hear a vibrate. But like triple check it that it's off. So I will say I recently got to work in autism friendly performance, and that did make me think a little bit more about screens in the theater, because there are people, you know, who are on the autism spectrum who process things better when they can sort of be distracted. And so like there are moments and reasons that there should be exceptions, I feel like. However, if you're just like on Facebook when you paid $150 to see the show, save your money.
Yeah. Like, I went to see an American in Paris. I got a ticket through work, and this person next to me dimmed their phone screen the whole time.
Yeah.
But like they were still on their fucking phone during the show, and it drove me nuts. And I had like one of the managers at the time like next to me, and I was like, she's on her fucking phone.
Yeah.
Like, it's rude.
Yeah.
I also have another thing too, where if you get free tickets through something, stay for the show.
Yeah.
Don't leave at intermission.
Yeah.
Because if it's coming from the marketing company or for the producers, like, you need to show face. Even if you can't stand the show, you gotta be there.
Right.
I've never walked out of a show, although I came very close to with Bat Out of Hell. And I said to my mom, I'm like, I've seen a lot of bad shows in my day.
That was not your thing.
That was not just like, I feel like you either love it or you hate it. And I feel like if you know the story, if you were a huge fan of Meatloaf and that album, like, you'll definitely appreciate it. But like somebody like me who's like, ooh, a show.
Right.
No.
Yeah.
And also like A Perfect Crime was like the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. And I just like, thank God I saw it for free. And like when I have guests come up to me and I'm like, don't see A Perfect Crime, I get like so heated and angry over that show. I'm like, it is the worst thing I've ever seen in my life. Like, I can't, like, it's just, I mean, and people I'm sure love it, but I just,
it's not your thing.
It was like a bad directing, like college directed festival show that went on like one act too long.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. But anyway, so getting back, so there was the people recording who were like terribly rude and lied. There have been instances of like, I've worked shows where there are many children in the audience, and like if they get too loud for too long, we have to ask them to step out, which is fair, like, you know, because it's distracting.
Did the parents give you attitude about it?
Not me personally, but they were very rude to the usher who asked them to step out, and it's like, then like, I can't help you. Like,
well, that's also why there's like an age requirement for some shows. You know, like some shows you can get away with. So like at work, if the child is a certain age, like we can't sell them a ticket. Right. You know, but just in case there's an issue.
Yeah, and like I understand that like maybe you're upset you have to step out, but like the person asking you is literally just doing their job, and it's a bigger issue that you have to take up with management. Like, don't be rude. Don't be rude to your ushers.
Yeah, ushers are people too, guys.
Yeah, we are.
They really are people too. I will say that I even ushered. Yeah. That came out properly. I ushered at 3 off-Broadway theaters. One doesn't even exist anymore. I ushered at the Minetta Lane Theater, and then they moved me to the Union Square Theater, which doesn't exist anymore. And then I like worked a couple of shifts at the Orpheum where Stomp was playing. Okay. So I have usher experience, and then from there, my dad knew somebody who's friends with somebody, so that's how I got my merch job. Okay. So I was like, I'm going to go work on Broadway at the Broadway theaters. So what's your favorite show that you've ushered?
Oh, my favorite show that I've ushered. Let me think.
Other than meeting Daniel Radcliffe.
Oh, yeah.
How to Succeed.
I did Usher How to Succeed. That was a really fun show.
Was it, who was worse with, Darren Criss or Daniel
Oh, in
Radcliffe?
terms of, like, the fandom?
Yeah.
They were both pretty intense.
Do you remember when I went to, like, meet you at the theater? We were going to hang out after, like, an early shift. And there was a huge line outside already at the stage door for Darren Criss.
I don't, but that sounds right.
Yeah.
And this was like the early days of his fame, so he didn't have a personal like security guard yet.
Oh, wow.
And so yeah, it was a lot. I think that was when he realized he needed one.
That was the Glee years.
I really enjoyed Ushering Hair.
That was fun.
That was a fun show.
I saw that a lot.
And I really enjoyed Bring It On. Like, it's not life-changing, but it was just a good time,
Yeah.
you know?
And you know, it's funny, too, because a lot of people, like, put Mamma Mia down.
Mm-hmm.
And I worked Mamma Mia. Like, that was the first show I merged. And it'll always have, like, a special place for me
Yeah.
because it was the first show I merged. I made a lot of great friends there.
Yeah.
A lot of fun times in that merch office.
Right.
At the Winter Garden. And, like, as much as people, like, put it down, like, people see it's just, like, mindless fun.
Yeah.
And that's what the show is. And that's what
Right.
it's all about. Like, you're not there to see, like, a Pulitzer Prize winning
Right.
show. You're there to, like, it's escapism. It's
Yeah.
fun.
Yeah.
That's what it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
There's a freaking Megamix dance at the end of the show.
Right.
You know?
Like, not everything has to be Les Mis.
Yeah. Look down. It's also, like, my crown from Courtney and Beth.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, Norm.
So, I gave Elizabeth some tasks, and she
Yes.
worked her due diligence on this. So, well, first of all, let's talk about, before we get into what you actually, like, worked on. Because I know you did acting, and we talked about dream. Like, what's your dream role? Do you still want to, like, if you were to still perform and act, like, what would you, like, mine is Catherine and Proof.
Right.
You know, I did, my freshman year of college, I did, like, 2 scenes from it where I played Catherine. I'm like, that's probably the last time I'm ever going to play her. And then I said, like, you know, dream-wise, like, Alice, Romeo, and, like, Juliet. I would also love to play Clara in Piazza. But, again, like, that's not going to happen. And, like, give me 20 years, guys, or no, 10 years from now, I'll be playing Margaret, which I'm fine with.
That's fine. That works.
I will be, you know, the problem is, putting me in Piazza, I would just cry the whole time.
She would. It's
I
true.
would. I cried when Kelly O'Hara walked by me once, guys.
She did. I was a witness.
Elizabeth was a witness, so she makes fun of me all the time. And now I will say I did walk by Kelly O'Hara once, and I texted Elizabeth that I didn't cry. It was a big moment. It was a big moment.
So I would, this might sound cliche because I know this play is overdone, but I love it. I would really like to play Helena in A Midsummer Night's Dream. I did, like, I've done scenes from it here and there, so it's not like I've never played her, but I haven't, like, done the whole show. It'll never happen, but I think it would be really fun to play Glinda in Wicked.
Yeah. Oh my god, and I'll play Elphaba. Oh my god, let's duet at karaoke.
Let's do it.
I will say that, like, I do like, I'm not getting into details of why I feel this way, but I definitely feel like some aspects of my life where I do, god, this is so cheesy, where I do kind of, like, identify a little bit with Elphaba.
That's fine.
You know?
That's fine.
There are certain characters where you identify a little
Yeah,
bit
totally.
Yeah.
I honestly, like, even if I could currently sing it, I am too tall, so it probably wouldn't matter. But
whatever.
That's okay. I love being tall, but, you know, like, they typecast a little bit, so.
Yeah, I mean, you also, it's interesting. I ran into somebody I went to college with, and this person is not pursuing musical theater anymore. And they mentioned to me how, like, she can't even play Elphaba because she's considered too heavy for it. And she's not a heavy person.
Right.
She's, like, a normal size.
Yeah.
You know? And I think that's also, like, now we're getting into the whole, like, casting thing.
Yeah.
Like, will there ever be, like, a plus-size Elphaba? Will there
Right.
ever be, like, a plus-size anybody?
Yeah.
You know?
I was just reading something about that, because there is so much talk around diversity and casting and in terms of, like,
which has gotten better, but it's not better.
Right. So, like, in terms of, like, casting people of various cultures and colors and all of that, like, we're getting better. But we still are not really casting different types of bodies.
Nope. And as somebody who is of a certain size, you know, like, it would be nice to see, like, a plus-size heroine. I mean, like, Hairspray, but, like, you know, have a plus size person play Clara and Piazza,
Right.
you know?
Like maybe
Because there are beautiful, stunning men, women, him, her, their people of all different sizes who are super talented, who can play all of these different parts, but they're just not given the chance because of their size. And I honestly think that's probably why I didn't get cast a lot when I was in college.
Yeah, I don't like, and the thing is too, like, yeah, it's great that we have like Hairspray, but like let's cast somebody who is plus size in a role where the point is not that they're plus size.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Plus size alphabet 2020.
Yes.
I'm available, guys. I can belt something.
She could do it.
Okay. Not very well. What do you hope for your future, like in the theater industry? Do you want to? I know. I told you. I got good questions.
You do. This is something I've been thinking about a lot lately because I am sort of in a career transition. I love ushering, but it's not endgame. And since I'm not teaching anymore, I'm trying to figure out the next step.
Also, on a side note, with your ushering, do you get benefits?
A little bit.
Okay.
That's a whole other podcast.
Elizabeth, part 2.
Right? So my thing with working in theater is that I'm trying to think of the right words. So I don't necessarily always need to work in a professional theater setting. I would like whatever I do to be something that requires creativity and that uses that to improve the lives of whoever that company or business serves. But if I do continue working in theater where I am connected to it in a more professional way, I would like to be a part of increasing the accessibility in theater.
Do you ever think about maybe reaching out to like a theater head, like I don't want to name names.
Yeah.
But a certain person whose company you work for, and just having a discussion with them about it, and maybe be like, you know, if there's something you're ever interested in, just to have like maybe like an informal or informational meeting about it.
Right.
And to like, you know, this is something I'm very interested in. I know that it's Jordan Roth, guys. And I feel like Jordan Roth would actually, I don't know him personally.
Yeah.
At all. I did meet him once when I did merch at Clybourne Park and they won the Tony.
Yeah.
Well, I met him twice. I like flipped out when he wanted to take a photo of me and post it.
Aww.
And I was like, you can't take a photo of the merch. Like, you can... And then he's like, your boss will be fine. And then the boss was like, it's fine, it's Jordan Roth.
Yeah.
And he posted a photo of me.
Aww.
And I met him again like after they won the Tony, and he's super sweet guy. But I feel like, I don't know if you can even get in touch with him.
Right.
But I feel like that's something he would probably want to listen to.
Right. I've thought about talking to the company I work for about it. I probably wouldn't. He is a lovely human. I probably wouldn't like start with him because I feel like you have to sort of move things up the chain. You know what I mean? I just haven't like sat down and figured out if that's something I want to do or how to go about it. But I definitely could.
I definitely think, I mean, again, this is me like telling Elizabeth what she should do with her life. I think that'd be great for you.
Thanks.
Especially, and I think like getting, you know, because you already work for the company.
Right.
There's no harm in being like, hey, I want to have a meeting with you guys because this is what I want to pursue.
Yeah.
And, you know, Jujamson is like really fantastic.
Yeah,
you know?
they are.
You know, they are probably one of the first theaters to have like gender neutral bathrooms and, you know, welcoming to all. And I think that starts at the top with Jordan Roth.
That's true. That's true.
And I will say, like, and this is nothing against any of the theaters that I worked at, but like, Jujamson house staff are freaking awesome.
We're really nice.
I think so. I mean, again, this is only from like working at the Cur, but like really great house staff. Just like everyone's a family. And it's just like a different environment, you know?
Yeah, totally.
But with that being said, Elizabeth, would you like to talk about your top theater going experiences?
Sure.
Let's see if any of ours is the same. Because my first podcast, I just rambled. I'm like, oh yeah, this one I like. Oh, and that one. Oh yeah, and this one too.
I made a list.
She's checking it twice. Gotta find out who's naughty or nice. Elizabeth's Theater Going Experiences. Oh my god, I just came up with a jingle for
look
you.
at you!
What? Christmas.
Amazing. So I made a list. It's in no particular order. It's not even in chronological order.
That's fine.
So I'm just gonna go through it and give like the show and a very quick
I feel like I
blurb.
know what's on there. I feel like Once is on there.
Yes, of course it is.
But you don't have to start with Once. But we saw it together.
Well, it's the first one on my list. So Once, I saw it the first time off Broadway and was just like obsessed with it.
Was I with you the first time?
No, you weren't. We saw it separately the first time.
Yeah. Did you also buy yourself a ticket at intermission to see it again like I did?
No, but I understand why you did.
Again, first and only time I've ever done it.
Yeah.
Steve Kazee, come back to Broadway. Thanks. Bye.
It was just such a wonderful show.
I would say magical.
Yeah. Yeah. It was I remember intermission came and I was like, this is better than the movie and I love the movie. You know, like, no, that's not a dig at the movie. Like, it was just amazing how they adapted it.
Yeah.
Okay, then I have The Normal Heart, because...
Which I did merch for.
She did. I remember specifically, I think it was Ellen Burstyn who was playing the female in that show. She had a monologue towards the end. Did that show have an intermission? I don't remember.
Did it? It did, because I had to go downstairs and do
Okay,
merch.
so she had her monologue during the second act, and it was so powerful, and it was the first time I saw an audience react to a monologue the same way that they react to the 11 o'clock number in a musical. And I was just like, whoa.
Well, she did win the Tony.
Yes. Then I have the Scottsboro Boys, which was just a great show.
Do you remember my Chattanooga story with that song?
I don't know.
That was when I had that really bad dental infection, and when I would wake up, that Chattanooga song was in my head.
Oh, yeah.
I had a really bad dental infection, like, right after the Tony Awards that year, and they performed that song. And every time I woke up in pain, I would have commencing in Chattanooga on the Southern Railroad line, like, stuck in my head.
Yeah. I enjoyed that show.
I remember you, like, obsessing over it.
Yeah, and it's funny because now thinking back, I don't even remember a lot of details about the production itself, but I remember at the end of the show, the lights went down and the entire audience was on their feet before the lights came back up. It was just like one of those like moments. It's like, you have to stand up now.
Yeah.
Then I have the Last 5 Years concert with Cynthia Erivo and Joshua Henry.
Whatever, it's fine. I didn't go. I think I was working. It was a Monday.
It was incredible. Because I really love that score, and I've seen productions of it that have been totally fine, but this concert was like...
First of all, you had Cynthia Erivo and Joshua Henry.
Yeah.
Like,
it was incredible.
That's all you need.
Yeah. And that was a great example of like casting against the grain, and it worked so well.
You know, parts like that I don't mind. Like, if there's no specific, like, what the character... Well, I mean, he is Jewish, but there can be black Jews. Yeah. He can convert.
It was amusing when he referred to Cynthia as a shiksa goddess.
Yeah. I said, hey. I love that song.
Brighton Beach Memoirs, which had a very short-lived run on Broadway, like 10.5 years ago, but I loved it. Laurie Metcalf was in it.
So was Santino.
Yes, he was.
Santana. That's
why I saw it. I got comps because I still worked for Billy Elliot.
Billy!
And he'd been in Billy, and so we got comps.
And then Will Chase was in Billy Elliot, and he was much older.
The Spring Awakening revival. It's funny because I didn't see the original cast, but I saw the original production before it closed.
I did.
Many
times.
It's funny because when I saw the original show, I was like, I love the music. I'd listened to the recording, but I saw the show and was kind of like, oh, okay, well, that was nice. And then I saw the revival and I went, oh, now I get it.
You know what's interesting? Like, I saw Spring Awakening 19 times on Broadway. I know, guys, get over it. I see shows a lot. That was when I was in college. And there were aspects of the revival I actually liked a little bit better than the original. But there were some things I liked about the original better. Sure. So it was just really interesting. Yeah. And I thought that Michael Arden did a really fantastic job with the show. And for me, it was kind of interesting because Krista Rodriguez, who played, oh my God, Elsa. Ilsa. Sorry, I'm getting Frozen and Spring Awakening mixed up. She was in the original cast of Spring Awakening, like the OG cast. Yeah. She was in the chorus, and I think she understudied roles. And then, oh my God, what's his name? He is married to Michael Arden. Yeah, I'm crying at his name. Anyway, but he played Hanshin in Deaf West, and he actually went on tour with Spring Awakening, like when its first national tour. So for me, it's kind of interesting how like these two people who have a history with like the original Spring Awakening ended up in Deaf West. But I feel like that also sometimes happens with like certain shows and like certain cast members and all that. Like if you're in the original, you end up in the revival, and so on and so forth.
Yeah, totally. And then I have on my list Come From Away. It's just like a beautiful and charming show, and like it's funny because people describe it as the 9/11 musical and then immediately say, but that's not what it's about, and it's so true.
Well, when I explain it to guests, I say it's based on true stories on 9/11, and then I go into it.
Right, because it's really not, it's not like they show you any videos or any, it's just...
and apparently they don't even, I haven't seen it, but apparently they don't even really talk about it that much.
They don't, like you just kind of know, and it's really just about a community coming together, and it's incredible. You will cry tears of joy and of sadness for an hour and a half, and I highly recommend it. The revival of Angels in America was so good.
We saw that together, but we weren't together.
I know. We happened to go on the same day, but we were sitting in different areas of the theater.
Same
Days, that's right.
I was front row, and Elizabeth was all the way on the top.
Yes.
Of the mezzanine.
Yes.
But I also paid a shit ton of money for my ticket, and I bought myself a ticket to see it again, front row in the orchestra. And I got snowed on, and I was covered in snow, and I was in all black.
I knew it would be good, but I was skeptical of, can you hold my attention for 3.5 hours, 2 days in a row? And the answer is yes.
I like how you wrote that down.
I didn't write that quote down.
Oh, okay.
I just made that up on the spot. You're welcome.
Yeah.
And then I put Cursed Child because Harry Potter. We love Harry Potter.
Elizabeth doesn't remember this, but I always tell this story when Cursed Child is brought up to like our friends or my guests at the place I work at. There's a part in the second act where something happens, and it scared the crap out of me that I literally like jumped like into Elizabeth. And she doesn't remember. Like, I didn't get out of my seat. Yeah. I kind of went like, oh my God. And I like turned to my left and kind of like went into her.
Yeah.
And she doesn't remember I did that.
I don't. You know what? It's funny because like my former roommate, Jess, when we saw the King and I, it was the King and I, and the ship came on stage, and she just starts like clawing my leg like a cat because she's like freaking out over the ship on the stage.
Excuse me. I've done that to you many times over many people.
I think I'm just like used to... Between the two of you, I think I'm just used to being attacked in the theater, but like in a nice way.
Yeah, like when Norm starts to sing Phantom of the Opera.
Yeah.
So, and I just like go...
I probably just don't remember.
It's okay.
And then the final thing I have on my list, but not necessarily in last place, was the concert they did with the original cast of Titanic a few years ago.
Yeah, which is Elizabeth's favorite musical.
It is. And that's... I've only seen it in concert form. Really.
Well, you know, for me, like, one of mine is seeing the original cast of Light in the Piazza.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it's my favorite musical. I saw it 4 times on Broadway. I have it on bootleg. But I never got to see the original cast altogether. I didn't even see Kelly O'Hara. I didn't see Matthew Morrison. I saw Victoria Clark, though.
Right.
And to see them all together, like, I can only imagine.
Yeah.
So, now, an hour and 13 minutes later...
Yeah.
Review it! So, I don't have anything to review today, guys. Unless you want me to review The Masked Singer, but, I mean, we don't need to go there. Or the Real Housewives of Orange County finale, which I realized this is the other things aspect of this podcast now. So, I was on Instagram yesterday, and I saw that Teresa Giudice and her husband Joe are separated. Elizabeth has no idea what I'm talking about.
I do. I am familiar with
So this. I literally like read that and I said to myself, I need friends who actually watch The Real Housewives because as much as like Elizabeth is one of my best friends, Carrie is one of my best friends, like they are not into like half of the stuff that I'm into.
It's true.
Even like the same type of music I'm into, like they're not going to pay money to see Coldplay or like Maroon 5 or John Mayer.
Although one time I did pay money for Allison to see Coldplay.
Yes, but that's because I also took you to Europe.
Yeah, I mean, that was fair.
Yeah. You know, it was a nice thing. It was the best thank you gift I've ever gotten.
Better than a card.
True girl. Ooh, ooh. I also took you to see Seth Meyers that day too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Jinx. What? We're friends. Elizabeth and I hung out yesterday, and she gave me a hot chocolate, and we're walking down Fifth Avenue, and I'm just, like, extra special hyper, And she's like, you were like hyper tonight.
She was on a sugar high.
Yeah. Shit. But you've seen me in all of the things.
Yeah, it's true.
You know.
So wait, am I supposed to review something?
Yes. So now that we got totally sidetracked.
Yeah.
Is there something that you've recently seen, show? Because I'm seeing a show on Friday night called Seared, which I'm not going to be able to review until like after it closes,
right?
Because it's the last podcast of the year.
Yeah.
But it has Ralis Barza and Chris Rodriguez. In it. Anyway, so like, what do you want? Like a show, a TV show, a movie, like
so
people's behavior at a theater.
So I have been on a little bit of like a terrible holiday movie kick. So I have recently watched some Netflix movies.
Oh yeah,
which I would love to talk about.
The other day, Elizabeth was telling us about that, like the night of Christmas.
The night before Christmas
with Vanessa Hudgens, and there's a night that an abridged version.
Yeah, so it's the movie is called The Night Before Christmas, but it's Knight. The Night.
The Night of the Round Table.
Anyway, so it is in the vein, like these movies are on Netflix, these holiday movies are very much in the vein of like Hallmark. So if you like a Hallmark Christmas movie, these are your jam.
I feel like they probably have a bigger budget for Netflix though. I still had to watch like A Prince for Christmas, Royal Baby.
Oh yeah, so I've watched that trilogy now.
And how was that one?
Also terrible, but I loved it.
That's what it usually is.
Yeah, anyway, so The Night Before Christmas,
just like the Pretty Woman musical,
is about...
It's my guilty pleasure musical, guys.
Everyone gets one, it's okay.
I got to meet Anna Pascal because of it.
It's true.
And I cried.
She did.
It's the best thing to happen to me in 2019.
So, Vanessa Hudgens is a teacher in Ohio. But they cram a lot of storylines into this hour-and-a-half terrible Netflix movie. But her parents are dead, her sister is alive and married, anyway, so that's what you need to know. And then we go to England in, I don't know why they went this far back, 1334.
It was a very good year.
Where this knight meets a woman in the woods, and he time travels to present-day Ohio. Why he had to time travel to Ohio, I don't know.
Well, that's because where Vanessa Hudgens was.
Anyway, I'm not going to spoil it for you, but you should watch it. But watch it either with a friend and or a beverage.
Yeah. Anything else you want to review, or is that it?
I'll let it be.
Let it be. All right, so Elizabeth, we're going to play a game now called Did Ron Swanson Say This?
Okay.
Or did I make this up?
Great.
Now, Elizabeth, tell the folks at home about your... So I'm a huge fan of The Office.
Yes.
And I sat through, and I watched full-on Parks and Rec. I have a deep-rooted love for two people in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Seth Meyers, which everybody knows, because I just absolutely love him. I just love him. I love Seth Meyers.
He's great.
Yeah. Elizabeth knows my undying love for Seth Meyers. The other one is Ron Swanson. And that's having watched the entirety of Parks and Rec. Yeah. Now, the only difference is and this is nothing against the show, because the show is hilarious and awesome, and the characters are great. I don't know if I can do a sit-down again of it, but I can always sit down and watch The Office. Yeah. So I'm a huge Office fan, and Elizabeth is a Parks and Rec fan. I am. But the only difference is that I don't think Elizabeth would like anything of The Office.
Yeah, I've never watched The Office.
And she's never even tried, because, I mean, like Parks and Rec, it takes a little while to get into it. Yeah. But I don't think she'll like The Office.
Maybe one day. I'll give it a go one day.
All right, we'll see. Would you like to tell the folks at home what you're doing, Roger, about your love for the Parks and the Rec?
What I'm doing?
No, like, tell them about your love so they understand why I'm doing this game for you.
So, yeah, I love it. I did not watch it from the first season when it was originally on. So it had been on for a few seasons, and I decided to do a binge watch of it, and I became obsessed, and then like around season 4 or 5 was caught up to watch it in real time.
And she very much identifies with Leslie Knope.
I love Leslie.
And she also just loves like Amy Poehler.
Yeah. I just think it's a hilarious show. I think it's timely. I think that it's just like my comfort show. If I'm sick, I watch it. If I'm sad, I watch it. If I'm happy, I watch it. Sometimes I sit and watch it. Sometimes it's just on in the background.
I'd also like to say I have gotten Elizabeth some like good Parks and Rec merch. I got her a Pawnee poster.
Yes, which is hanging on my wall.
I think, didn't I get you like a mug? Or, no, I
got
got
me
you
a
Luke's mug from Gilmore Girls.
Yeah, you got me. I have 2 pins. I think you got me 2 pins.
Oh, yeah, I got you one of Leslie Knope.
One of Leslie and one of Ron.
Oh, that's right, I
Yeah.
did. The best Ron is when he gets drunk off of that, like, snake juice or whatever it's called.
Yes, with the little hat. That's a great gift.
Oh, my God, that's my favorite Ron Swanson moment.
And I have, like, all of the pop figures, and then I have the Entertainment Weekly cover the Parks cast was on is, like, on my wall, too. So.
Oh, that's so cute. All right. I don't know if I can do a Ron Swanson voice.
It's okay.
Okay. When I eat, it is the food that is scared. Did I make that up, or did Ron Swanson say that?
Ron said that.
Congratulations, you are correct. Okay. I like saying no. It lowers their enthusiasm.
Ooh, that's a hard one.
Did I say that, or did Ron Swanson?
I think you said that.
Nope, Ron Swanson said it. I got it. What? Man's greatest weakness? Caring about other people.
I think you said that.
Yes, you're right.
Okay. But Ron would say that.
Oh, I like this one. Chicken is not real meat. If it has feathers, it should not be considered meat.
I think you said that.
Yes. I wanted to do something with chicken.
That's fine.
I should have just left it at chicken is not a real meat.
I'm ready.
I'm very proud of this one. Is it mine or is it Ron's? The world may never know. There's only one thing I hate more than lying. Skim milk. Which is water that's lying about being milk.
Oh, that's Ron.
Yeah.
That's like an iconic moment.
Yeah. Okay. Cats used to be buried with pharaohs. Therefore, what are the point of cats? They are useless.
It's you.
Yeah. I'm trying.
It's a valiant effort.
My one regret? Nothing. Regrets are for people who need to feel like they are missing something in their lives.
Ron?
No, I made that up.
Oh, see?
Yeah. I kind of like saw some of his quotes and made up stuff. Okay.
Yeah.
Fear is the only way to motivate people.
He says something like that. Ron?
No, it was me, but I took it from one of his quotes. The original quote was, there are ways to motivate There are 3 ways to motivate people. Fear, money, and hunger.
So, like, kind of Ron, but, like, you reworded it.
Reworded it. It's okay. Dear frozen yogurt, you are the celery of desserts. Be ice cream or be nothing.
That's Ron.
Yes. There has never been sadness that can't... No, that's fucked up. Ooh, pardon my French. Yeah, I don't know what I wrote. Well...
I know what that quote should be.
Yeah, it's something about breakfast food. So I fucked that up anyway.
Never been a sadness that can't be cured by breakfast food.
Well, I think that's it, honestly.
Okay.
Well, congratulations. We both won.
Woohoo.
Yay! So now that we're coming to an end of our podcast...
Yeah.
We've been chatting for quite some time.
We have.
Is there anything that you would like to end with? Tell the folks at home what you're doing. That's going to be a new thing now. Anything that you want to tell the people at home about theater or your thoughts, or you think you already covered that, or anything you want to ask me?
Ooh. I did not prepare questions.
It's okay. I like to keep you on your toes.
Well, so if you're going to the theater, please put your phone away. And if there is an actual reason you need it, talk to somebody who works front of house and we'll figure it out.
Yeah. Ushers are people too, guys.
Yeah, be nice to your ushers. There are some cranky ushers on Broadway. I give you that. But
Elizabeth is not one of them.
I'm not one of them.
Do you want to tell the folks where you work or no?
I don't know.
Yeah, we'll leave it as a mystery.
You could probably figure it out.
Just look for the very tall person.
Yeah. And then you should follow my dog on Instagram, Sunny the Sad Dog. And I am Elizabeth Harvey.
Is that your Instagram handle that you're telling?
That is. I also have a blog, Instagram, but it hasn't been updated in a while, so...
Correct.
If it gets updated, it will be on my feed, and you'll know.
You know what I just realized? I posted on my Theater Enthusiast podcast Instagram page, and theater is spelled E-R. So I posted about how I'm seeing Queen Laura Linney in My Name is Lucy Barton. And I wanted to talk about this, and I totally forgot until I pulled up my Instagram. Great. About how to get cheaper theater tickets.
Oh, yeah.
And even Manhattan Theater Club liked my post, which was awesome.
Amazing.
Anyway, so a lot of these theater companies, if you don't follow me on Instagram or what have you, because I only have 26 followers, if you're between a certain age, like 30 to 35 or whatever, there's a lot of different theater companies like Lincoln Center, Roundabout, Manhattan Theater Club who have these like 30 under 35 or what have you, like discounted tickets.
Yeah.
And it's a really great way to see shows, especially if you can't afford theater.
Yeah.
You know, like I right now can't afford to spend like $100 and something, you know, to like sit and watch my queen do an hour and a half one woman show.
Right. But you also can't afford to not see her.
Exactly. Like, I'm convelling over how I learned to drive, and I'm still trying to figure out, like, how to get my ticket for that. But, yeah, I mean, I just think you should definitely utilize these programs, especially if you want to see a show. And there's also a lot of, if you go on Playbill.com and you look at, like, the Broadway Rush, a lot of shows do digital lottery, they do in-person lottery, they do rush, general rush, student rush. Not as much student rush anymore. There's also standing room. So there's a lot of different ways where you can get cheaper tickets to shows. And also, if you're a member of TDF, like I saw Tootsie and the Nutcracker through TDF, and I think I mentioned that last time. The only thing is, like, with TDF, you can't really pick where you're sitting. Right. So when I saw Tootsie, I was surprised that I was, like, front row on the aisle. Right. You know, which was awesome. But I've also had some, like, not great seats with TDF. But, like, the theaters that I was at, I was fine. Like, when I went to see Hello Dolly, I was the last row in the in the mezzanine, all the way on the side. But you know what I say? Quicker to the bathroom, guys. I was the first one in there. Exactly. Because I love me a bathroom.
She does.
I do. So do you have any questions for me?
Ooh. Do I?
I don't know, do you?
I don't know. What are your thoughts on this ragtime concert that's happening?
Oh my god, I can't even. So when I was in college, my senior year, they did ragtime. And I just loved it so much. And I didn't even see this last revival that they have. And everybody knows, like, so there's 3 people I want to sing me to bed at night. It's Audra McDonald, Norm Lewis, and Jeremy Jordan. Yeah. And the fact that they're doing it with Audra, and tickets are going to be so expensive. Yeah. And if I'm still at the same job that I'm at, I work on Mondays until 8, so I wouldn't even be able to see it. Right. But hopefully they'll put up clips somewhere. Yeah. But I'm just very curious, because it's for, like, Maren Maisie. Right. So I'm curious to see who they're going to get cast as the mother. Oh, right. That's going to be, like, a big deal. Yeah. You know, I feel like it should be definitely somebody who was very good friends with her.
Yeah, some sort of connection.
And maybe something, like, her husband approves of. Right. Jason Delaney, you know? I'm like, I can't. I'm dying. I saw, like, I think I saw, like, Ragtime 5 times when I was in college. Like, I was obsessed with it. And somebody I was very good friends with, like, understudied the mother. I also think I was, like, having my time of the month at that time, so I was, like, really hormonal and crying. Sure. But what are your feelings on it?
So I've never seen Ragtime. Really I've been told it's amazing and that I would really like it. So, like,
Didn't I, like, sing Ragtime at the Boardwalk in Disney?
I think you did.
Yeah.
So I'm not, like, willing to give a kidney to see this concert.
Yeah, that's understandable. Yeah, for sure.
But, like, it sounds amazing. And, like, Audra, man. Audra McDonald. I think it's the only time I've cried just by listening to a song was when I was watching the tree lighting one year on TV, but they were doing the tree lighting in Rockefeller, and it was the year that they were going to do the live version of The Sound of Music, and at the tree lighting she sang Climb Every Mountain.
You know, I haven't done an Audra impression in so long that I think I'm like, I used to do a really good Groban. I do a really good Josh Groban. I just haven't done Audra in so long. I don't know if I can still do it.
But I was, like, on my couch weeping because she was singing Climb Every Mountain in front of a Christmas tree.
Every mountain.
And like, not that I don't cry.
Did that work? Was that Audrey?
It was pretty good.
Thank you.
It's not that like
I can only do her lower register.
Yeah, it's not like I don't cry at things, but like to cry.
I've never seen you cry.
Song is not like me at all.
Well, she just cries whenever I make a bad joke. It's fine. I will say, so like I came home from work the other day, and Norm Lewis was performing at 54 Below, and 54 Below went live, and he was singing Music of the Night, and my whole body was reacting.
Yeah.
And I was verbally talking. I'm like, you can Music of the Night me, Norm. Like, I kicked my legs up. Like, I was having an actual reaction to Norm Lewis singing Music of the Night.
Sometimes you have a reaction.
Yeah. All right, Elizabeth.
All right,
Thanks for being on the Theater Enthusiast podcast.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And, Happy New Year, everyone. We'll definitely see you in the year 2020 with, whomever we get going. I want to get some few people. Or if anybody listening wants to be on the podcast, feel free to follow us at Theater Enthusiast Podcast on Instagram. And remember, theater is spelled with an E-R, not R-E. Don't fight me on it. That's how it is. So feel free to DM and let me know if you want to be on the podcast and why. And that's it. So I hope you guys have a happy holidays, Christmas, Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate, and a happy and joyous new year. Happy and healthy, everyone. Till next time.